Peace and blessings. Thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to show you how to make the very first meal that I cooked in my crock pot, which is turkey quinoa meatballs. The side dishes that you see, which are green beans along with feta cheese and smashed potatoes, are not featured in this video. So if you'd like to know how to make the meatballs, stay tuned and enjoy. The correct pronunciation of the word spelled Q-U-I-N-O-A is quinoa. The incorrect pronunciation is quinoa. Though I knew this while making the video, you can see where a few times I accidentally incorrectly pronounced the word. So once again, just for clarification, the correct pronunciation is quinoa.
What I have here is the pot to my rice cooker and also a strainer. And then I have what is almost, as you can see, almost 1 cup of quinoa. So we will call this probably, what is that? It's more than 3/4 but less than a cup, and that's because I ran out. And so I'll just dump that into my strainer and we'll turn on the cold water and just rinse the quinoa. Rinse, rinse, rinse. Rinse, rinse, rinse. And you want to make sure that you have a strainer that has holes that are small enough so too much of your quinoa will not go through the holes. So this is pretty much rinsed. You'll be able to tell that it's rinsed because you can feel it. And some is under my nail. Make sure you have clean hands, okay? And so once we have our quinoa rinsed out, you'll see that a few pieces kind of fell out, but that's okay. I'll try to save as many of those as I can. That means I need to get me a strainer that has even smaller holes, but that's pretty good for the amount that fell out. It's not a lot at all. So then you'll just take your quinoa and dump it into the pot of your rice cooker, and then you will grab your cup, the same cup you used to measure the quinoa, and we're going to double the amount of quinoa. So if you use half a cup of quinoa, then of course use a full cup of water. If you use a full cup of quinoa, then of course use 2 cups of water. Just double the amount of water. And then you have this, and we're going to put that in our rice cooker and allow it to cook for about 15 minutes or so, and it'll be done. And over here we have our rice cooker, and you'll just take your pot of quinoa and water, put it in there, put your top on there, plug it in, turn it on, and it's going to pop up once it's done. Like I said, about 15 minutes or so. It kind of just depends on your rice cooker, but it won't take long at all. Okay, y'all, so it's been about 15 minutes or so, and I'm just about positive that my quinoa is done, but the rice cooker hasn't popped. So as you can see, there's no more water there, and if I let this keep going, it's probably going to burn. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just pop my rice cooker. You can see here that this is like perfect. So what you want to do is really be sure to time your quinoa. It shouldn't take more than 15 to 20 minutes. So at the 15-minute mark, I would suggest that you do what I did and come and look at your quinoa. And if it doesn't have lots of water left in it, if I go down to the bottom, it's almost starting to stick. I hope you can see that. And we don't want that to happen. So I probably should have popped it maybe 1 minute to 3 minutes earlier than what I did, but I was really expecting the rice cooker to automatically pop it. So just, be cognizant of your quinoa and the texture and the amount of water in it, because you don't want to overcook it, you don't want it to burn, and you don't want it to stick to the bottom. Okay, so you'll notice that here in our bowl, our mixing bowl, I have 1 pound of ground beef, and I have half of the amount of quinoa that I cooked. And so from the cooked portion of quinoa, this is half of that. So this is probably a little bit more than a cup. And then we have 1 egg here slightly beaten. And then I'm going to take just a little bit of olive oil, and we're going to put some of that in there. And so I have some paprika here. So you have those main 3 ingredients, and then you put your olive oil, and after that you're just going to go ahead and add your seasonings. And these seasonings, I kind of just put them together and said, well, you know, all of that will taste good. So you don't necessarily have to use everything that I'm using. You can add in whatever you want. You can take out whatever you want. If you only want to use salt and pepper, then, you know, go ahead and do that. But I'm trying to make the meatballs have more of a sort of Italian type of taste. And here I have a little bit of chili powder just to give it a little bit of oomph. Just a little bit of that. And I have some basil. One thing that I wanted to use is dried oregano, but I don't have any dried oregano. So instead I have some Italian seasoning that I'll be using and some parsley. So that's just substitute for the oregano. Here's some parsley. And when I cook, guys, as you can see, I put a lot of seasonings. My husband and I like to have tasty foods, and I also believe that there are lots of health benefits in certain seasonings. So you'll notice that in my cooking videos, I mainly cook with lots of seasoning. And this is Italian seasoning. I picked this up at, I think it was Walmart. And this is a brand that I don't even normally get. I think it's one of those little cheap brands. So I said, that looks interesting. Italian seasoning. And I've used it once before on, I can't remember what I was cooking, but that Italian seasoning was so good. So it's cheap, but it's good. And then I have some garlic powder here. It's better if you use fresh chopped garlic, but I don't have any garlic right now. I am out of a lot of things. We need to go grocery shopping, so I'm just using powdered garlic for this. And then I'm going to use a little bit of salt. And then you can also use some grated or crushed Romano cheese. I don't just have Romano cheese, but I have this, which is a blend of Parmesan Romano and Asiago cheeses. So I'm going to put that in there. And then you just mix it all up. So you'll mix, and then we're going to create small little balls. So this is just some olive oil that's warmed up, a very small amount of olive oil. And what you'll do is you'll take your balls of meat and just put it in here. You're not fully cooking it. What you're going to do is just lightly brown the top and the bottom of the meatballs so that they won't mush all together once you put them in your slow cooker. And so as you can see here, I've mixed my ingredients. And so we have our meatball mix. Yay! Just gonna scrape that off of the spoon. And so if you want to, you can definitely get your hands dirty and just stick all your fingers in there and create little meatballs and put them into your olive oil. But I don't think I want to really get my hands all dirty right now. So I'm just gonna use a small spoon and create little balls with the spoon. There you go. And if you want to, you can use 2 spoons to do this just to round it out, as if you don't want to get your hands dirty. In my honest opinion, it'll be a lot easier to just stick your hands in there and do it. But once again, I don't want to really get all that stuff underneath my nails. So you make them about that size, and then you just go ahead and put them into your olive oil. And I'm going to put my heat between medium-low and medium. Once I have them all in there, I might turn it up just a little bit, but you definitely don't want to thoroughly cook your meatballs. Again, you are simply just lightly searing the top and the bottom of your meatballs so that when you put them in your slow cooker, they won't turn into a meaty, mushy mess. Okay? So you'll just keep creating those. Okay, y'all, so as you can see, I am down to my last little turkey quinoa meatball here. And I'm gonna make some room for that right there. And I'm gonna shape these babies a little bit more, make them pretty. If I were to use my hands, they would be, you know, more rounded, I suppose. And another thing that I thought about while I was using these spoons to make it is that, you know, like what an ice cream scooper looks like? I think I've seen them like really small for the purposes of cooking or like making meatballs or what have you. But if you have that, that would be great, because then you could take your little scooper and just scoop out your mix and just pop it into your oil. But again, I used 2 spoons to do it, and it worked out pretty well. So here are our meatballs, and they are cooking. And so what I'll do is grab a clean spoon. And once again, you do not want to thoroughly cook your meatballs. You just want to kind of lightly brown like that. Look at that. That is perfect. This is what you want to do. Probably even a little bit less than that. But you want that to happen on one side, and you want the same thing to happen on the other side. So a lot of these that I put in a few minutes ago are ready to be flipped. And just be careful with them, because again, you're not cooking them thoroughly, so they are soft in the middle, so you don't want to break them apart. I think the majority of these, except the ones in the middle, can be flipped over. So I'm going to go ahead and continue flipping these over. Okay guys, so our meatballs have been flipped, as you can see here, and the other side is lightly searing. What I'm going to do while that goes on is go ahead and turn my heat off and just let the remainder of the heat from the eye just hit the meatballs. And then you'll go ahead and pull out your slow cooker. And what I'm going to do is take some onions and some diced tomatoes and layer the bottom with the onions. I sliced these onions earlier, and as you can see, I decided to do them in thin little slivers like that. I normally dice them, but I wanted to do it like this because I feel like the end result will be prettier with the thin slivers. And we like onions, so I'm gonna put a whole sweet onion that's been sliced into the bottom of the slow cooker. And then I'm going to take half of the amount of diced tomatoes that I just showed you. The diced tomatoes, that was about 2 diced Roma tomatoes. So I would say probably small to medium-sized tomatoes. If you want to use more, but I didn't feel the need to use more tomatoes because I have some tomato sauce that I'm going to be putting in here, and I didn't want it to be too tomatoey. So when they're about like this, you want to go ahead and take them out one by one and place them into your slow cooker on top of your onions and tomato. I'm going to show you how I'm placing these in just a moment, in case you cannot see. One more, maybe a baby one. I think that will be okay for right now. So there you are. I just kind of place them around the perimeter. Grab some tomato sauce here, and I'm using Prego. And I'm just going to layer that on top of the meatballs and the onions and the tomatoes. Once I have a thin layer of that, then I'm going to go ahead and place more meatballs, and then the remainder of my diced tomatoes and a little bit of tomato sauce, hot sauce, and Tony Chachere's. And then I also want to put a little bit of this garlic and herb tomato sauce from Hunt's. I'm mainly using this because we had previously opened it and put it in the refrigerator, and I don't want it to go bad. So just a little bit of that. Okay, and that's what that looks like. And so then we'll take the remainder of our meatballs and just place them on and around what's already there. And that's where we are. these diced tomatoes, kind of lightly put them over the top. I'm gonna get as much of that juice in there as I possibly can. I really hate wasting food, even the smallest amount. And there's our tomatoes. And so then we'll take a little bit more of our tomato sauce and put that on top. It's gonna be a pot of tomatoey goodness. If you love tomatoes like I do, then you are already getting excited about this. A little bit more of that. Not too much tomato sauce, but enough. Okay. And now we have all of our tomato sauce and tomatoes. And what I'm gonna do is take this little container of goodness and just sprinkle it on top just a little bit. Not too much, because once it's done, depending on your taste buds, you can always put just a little bit more. And we like spice, so I'm gonna add a little bit of this Tabasco. Not too much, because this is pretty strong. And then for something that's not so spicy, but just kind of tangy, my favorite hot sauce, which is Frank's. I put that stuff on everything. A little bit of Frank's on there. I'm gonna take my quinoa, and this is really an optional step. Right now I'm just really experimenting. This is not called for, but I have quinoa that I plan to use as a bedding for the meatballs, and so I'm just gonna put that right on top, just a little bit. Okay? And that's what that looks like. And then we'll put our top on our slow cooker, and we will cook it for 4 hours. You can do 6, 8, or 10 depending on, you know, how long you're gonna be away. I will come back and let you know what that looks like in 4 hours or so. Okay, y'all, so here is the finished product. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug it and show you guys what this looks like. Dum, dum, dum. So first of all, it smells amazing. You guys remember I said I wanted to make it taste like something that's Italian. So it definitely smells like something that's Italian. Look at those onions. Let me show you. Look, that's how I wanted them to be. Y'all, I'm so excited. This is my first crock pot meal, and I'm so excited. Look at those tomatoes, more onions. Look at that. Now, the only thing that I probably would do different if I make this again is to put more diced tomatoes and a little bit less tomato sauce, because with the cooking of the turkey, as you can see, it became a little bit more watery. And this is not a problem if you like that consistency, but I kind of wanted it to be just a little bit thicker. But y'all, it looks so pretty and it smells so good. And so later on, when I serve this to myself and my husband, I will do a taste test. And I think I'm gonna serve it with some smashed, not mashed, but smashed potatoes and some green beans with feta cheese, maybe. So I'll let you guys see the meal, and then I'll let you guys know how this tastes. But I am so pleased with the way this looks. I am so pleased that my meatballs actually stayed meatballs and did not become a huge meaty mess. And I like the way the onions look. And even the consistency of the sauce is actually not so bad once you stir it around just a little bit. So there we go. Turkey quinoa meatballs. Okay guys, and now I am ready to plate the first plate, which I will take to my husband. So I'm going to grab my leftover quinoa and just make a thin bed in preparation for the meatballs. Okay. And then I'll take these beautiful meatballs and place them on top of that bed of quinoa. Don't fall, little onions. Then I'll just reach in here and grab some sauce to cover that. Sauce and a few more onions. What I decided to do is to make some green beans with, I season it with just salt and pepper. I put a little bit of olive oil, about a capful, not a cup, a capful of vinegar, and then this is tomato basil feta cheese here. My husband loves green beans, so I'm always trying to figure out new ways to spice up the green beans so that he won't just have plain old green beans, you know. And just put that feta there, a little bit prettier. And then last but not least, I have these smashed potatoes, not mashed, and they're smashed because, as you can see, they're not very creamy, they're still chunky, and so that's done on purpose. And you can also see that I left some of the skin in there. I just feel like that increases the nutritional value. And so what I did here is I smashed them, and then I seasoned them with salt, pepper, garlic, parsley, a little bit of almond milk just to make it creamy and smooth, and then I have some Land O'Lakes olive oil and sea salt cream butter on there. Forgot the exact name. I think it's like cream or something like that. So we'll throw that there. And we will cover that with just a bit of parsley. Then I have this cheese here that we used earlier, and I'm just going to put a little bit of that on top of our meatballs and quinoa. And there you have it. That is the meal. So if you try this, let me know. I hope you like it. I think it'll be really, really good. Lastly, here is my plate. I always make my plate like a baby plate because I don't eat very much in one sitting. And I'm just gonna do a quick taste test here. So wow, did you see how the meatball broke? It's really nice. So let's see how this tastes. Okay, y'all, so you know how excuse me. You know how sometimes people cook and then they do the taste test and they're like, oh, you know, this is good, but you might wonder, is it really good, or are they just saying that? Y'all, I'm telling you, it's really good. Like, I'm not just saying it. The seasoning is good, and it tastes like it's Italian, like I want it. Let's try the green beans with the feta cheese. So the green beans are really crunchy. They were from a frozen bag of green beans, so I think the only thing I would do differently here is maybe cook them just a tad bit longer, but you want them to have a little bit of crunch so that you have a lot of nutritional value in them. You don't want them to be very soggy. So I would probably just cook them just a tad bit longer. But the texture or combination of the green beans with the feta cheese is really nice. And the small amount of vinegar adds a nice little tang to it. So here are the smashed potatoes with a little bit of parsley on top. And I love how they are creamy and chunky. And I want to say substantial. Basically something that's going to stick to your ribs. So I can't wait to finish my meal. We actually just got home. My husband spontaneously took me out on a date to the movie theater. So this is actually being filmed pretty late at night. But because of my lovely crock pot that I just got, the food did not burn and it stayed warm until we got back. So thanks for watching, guys. And again, if you try this recipe, let me know how it goes. Peace, blessings, love, and light. Bye. Have here my very first crock pot. Yes, so my husband came home, I don't know, a few days ago, maybe it was about a week ago, and he brought this with him, and I was so excited because I have been saying I want a crock pot, a slow cooker. It really didn't have to be the name brand crock pot. I just wanted a slow cooker, but he brought me an actual crock pot. So we are going to unbox it together, me and you.